These are the most painful punishments in human history.
The most painful punishments from around the world.
Spanish boot?
Well, of course
What
the
is that?
Spaniards are going to be on this list. Them
And why was
suckers
there
tortured
feet on my
half-truths out
screen?
of people for over 350 years during the highly unexpected Spanish Inquisition between 1478 up until 1834. Now, when you're
That's a long
performing
time.
painful public persecutions for such a long time, you're going to come up with pretty colorful ways to do it. Ways to inflict maximum pain to
Oh
ensure
my
that you extract
goodness.
those dubious confessions from those filthy non-Catholic heathens. So it's no wonder that history was blessed with devilish devices designed to do just that. You had the Spanish spider, the Spanish collar, the Spanish
The
tickler,
Spanish
very different from
spider?
the French variety,
Tickler,
the Spanish
that
donkey,
doesn't
and the
look
star of this
fun.
segment, the Spanish boot. Originating somewhere during the Inquisition times, the Spanish boot was a very basic yet very effective interrogation tool. Help. 4 planks of wood and a few bits of metal. You got your braces for holding the wooden splints and sharpened
no.
metal nails to make you squint. The legs of the victim would be secured in place between the 2 inner free-moving braces. The 2 outer planks are secured to each other, preventing any outward movement. Not that
Okay.
you want to, because, you know, sharp nails and such. Once the victim was sat down, a large wooden wedge would be placed in between the inner
Oh my
planks,
goodness.
blocking the victim's legs. And I'm sure your imagination is a few steps ahead here. The interrogator equips his iconic giant hammer and rears back, preparing to strike.
Oh my
Are you sure
goodness.
you don't want to confess your crimes? Because this pulsating sack of meat is about to treat you like one of them carnival tests of strength.
Oh no.
With one
Ouch.
swift blow from the hammer, the wedge drives the inner boards outwards, lacerating your legs, shattering your shins, and crushing your calves.
That is so
The pain
painful.
is pure agony. And that was only the first strike. Additional
Yeah,
slams
literally,
from
that
the
was
mallet reduce your
one.
legs down to something resembling burger meat. Remember when you could walk like 30 seconds ago? Yeah, me too.
Well, now you
Now,
can't.
despite the Iberian identity, there were many variations of the Spanish boot throughout history. The Scottish first dabbled in boot torture even before the Spanish, tightly binding victims' legs in saturated leather. The bindings would then
Oh,
be
wow.
heated over an open fire, shrinking the leather and constricting the legs to the point of snapping bone. The French even got in on the action with their own version. The victim would be bound and gagged on a wooden chair with both feet placed in a single oversized iron
world?
boot. It would
These
then
are
be
so
filled
cool.
with either boiling water, boiling oil, or
Boiling
even
water?
molten lead. And if you're unaware, pure
Oh,
lead
no.
melts at around 622 degrees Fahrenheit or 328 degrees Celsius. For comparison, just 2 seconds of exposure to 150 degree Fahrenheit water is enough to cause third-degree burns on human skin. Victims of the French
no.
boot would have their skin and their muscles boiled off of their bones or encased in a big hunk of lead. Better get to confessing, or at least make up something convincing.
At least, because I don't want any of that torture.
Oh, this shit
sounds
sucks.
painful.
You ever hear the term an eye for an eye? Well, the literal form of this would be the toe-curling, face-scrunching practice of abacination. Popular amongst ancient Greeks, Persians, and within the Byzantine Empire, abacination is a form of corporal punishment, meaning that the goal isn't death, but rather to teach the victim a lesson. In this case, how not to see anymore. That's because abacination is the act of
gosh.
inflicting intentional or oftentimes irreversible damage to one's eyeballs. Hey. What the
Ouch.
fuck? Your bulbous oculi have a myriad of nerves ready to send your brain big ouch signals the moment they detect discomfort. And boy, are they about to feel some discomfort. Although it was mainly used as a punishment for heresy or treason, the act of annihilating one's eyes existed all across human history. Perhaps one of the most popular examples of this was executed by Byzantine Emperor Basil II. After defeating the Bulgarians at the Battle of
What did he
Claydon,
do?
Big Bad Basil had taken thousands of enemy soldiers hostage. He had ordered that the men be
Thousands?
divided into groups of 100 and brought before him. It was then he had his men gouge out the eyes of 99 of the soldiers, sparing one who would be allowed to keep one eye. That lucky
One
duck would be
eye?
the one to lead his now blinded comrades back to their respective commanders.
Oh my
now, according to
goodness.
legend, this mass blinding was conducted on 15,000 men, granting Basil II the vicious title of Basil the Bulgar
15,000?
Slayer. But how would this blinding actually be performed? Well, it's really up to how the person doing it felt that day. Traditionally, a bassination was carried out by jamming a red-hot iron rod into the ocular cavity,
Oh my
essentially
goodness.
melting the eye from the skull. Other flavors of removal included scooping with a spoon-like device, slitting with a blade, using preposterous pressure to pop them like pimples, or just leaving it up to good old chemistry. Now, if you really pissed
Ouch.
someone off, you would be strapped to a chair while corrosive liquid, usually boiling vinegar, was placed in soluble cups and positioned over your eyes. The corrosive agents would slowly eat away at the bottom of the cups, left to drip into your eyeballs, which would painfully dissolve away.
That sounds
At that
literally
point,
so
you'd be
painful.
luckier to die than to survive. But couldn't they just close their eyelids? Oh, you mean these? Yeah, they cut those off too. Don't
Oh
worry,
my
it was only
gosh.
a little painful. See what I did there? No, you didn't. That's fine.
That is crazy
Strap in for this one,
painful.
because that's exactly what's about to go down, and your legs are about to go up. This is
What
the
the-
Tiger Bench, a Chinese torture device popularly used in China from the Imperial Age up through today. That's right, the International Society for Human Rights, a German-based non-governmental non-profit organization, claims that multiple inhumane torture devices like the Tiger Bench are still used on prisoners in China to this day for
No
extracting
way.
confessions or flat-out torture, just because. It's true, probably. And the same applied to its use in the Imperial Age. During the times of the Ming and Qing dynasties between the 14th and 20th centuries, the judicial system required a confession to legally convict a criminal for their crimes, since forensics
They
at the time
required it?
weren't all that great. Unless you had notable status to sway public opinion, the perpetrator would basically have to be caught red-handed by multiple witnesses. He ran into my knife. He ran into my knife 10 times.
I don't know
he
if
had
that's
it
a
coming.
good-
But what do
I don't know if
Tiger
that's a good
Bench
lie.
do, you ask in poor English? It's very simple. The victim is delicately slammed onto a wooden bench in a sitting position, their hands and ankles bound by ropes, and their mouths gagged with, I don't know, probably a piece of cloth or something. They would also have their torso and thighs secured to
This
the
is
bench to
crazy.
prevent any unwanted thrashing from the pain that they were about to experience. One by one, bricks or wooden slabs would be placed under the victim's piggies, slowly elevating them higher and higher while the rest of their body
Ouch.
remained locked in place. Now, unless you have the Tibio Taylor talent of a turkey, you can see where this is going. With
Oh
each
my
addition of a
goodness.
brick, your ligaments in your knees become hyperextended, painfully forcing your knee joint beyond its natural range of motion. If any of you less than limber people remember the ungodly sit and reach box from your middle school gym classes, just imagine
Oh,
that.
wow, I do
but
remember
someone
that.
grabbing your arms and pulling you with all of their might. Then you might just get a lick of what that pain must feel like. The continuous hyperextension eventually leads to the shattering of the kneecaps and the splintering of the leg bones, utterly destroying muscles and tendons, rendering the victim's legs completely useless. Trust me, although this
I
guy seems
bet.
untroubled, inside, he's screaming. And if that weren't enough, prisoners would be bound in this position for days on end, to the brink of starvation and full sleep deprivation from the ongoing pain. Not only from the hyperextension, but from physical beatings to the rest of their body if they
They're getting
continue to
beaten
refuse
too?
to confess. They don't know I'm a double-jointed masochist. Despite what the chill demeanors on these fellas' faces express, getting sawn vertically in half is not a pleasant experience.
It
Although
probably
the act of
isn't.
sawing has been present throughout many different cultures in history, ancient Roman and Chinese versions were mainly done transversely, or at the waist. But some sadistic buttholes thought, nah, not painful enough. Let's try a different axis. And you know what? Let's hang them upside down too. We'll start shredding the sack, split the crack, go down the hall and to the skull. The
Oh,
method
no.
is pretty self-explanatory. A victim will be hoisted up upside down with arms and legs secured to two posts, usually with
What
their
in
dangly
the
bits out.
world?
The condemned would then have a big ol' saw ripped through their bodies like a slice of birthday cake. On the bright side, the poor soul would most likely be long dead or at the very least unconscious before the saw ever got that far thanks to the excruciating pain and severe blood loss. Documented
Yeah, I
cases of this
bet.
particular path of punishment are rare, but some stories have survived. The most known case being that of Simon the Zealot, one of the 12 apostles of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. If you've ever seen Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper, he's the less detailed guy all the way at the end of the table getting ridiculed by these two fine gents for asking, "When can we eat?" Very little is known about poor Simon at all, being
mean,
only
it's a valid
possibly mentioned
question.
in the Bible. History
He's just
states that he
hungry.
preached across Egypt and Persia, with the latter being the place of his demise. Apparently, the Persians weren't too happy with the door-to-door preachings of Simon, so much so that they saw to his end, literally. According to some historians, around the year 65 AD, at the age of 60, Simon was spread in two while spreading the word of the Lord. For his
Spread in
dedication to the
two?
J-Man, Simon was made a saint in the Catholic Church, with many depictions of him holding a long saw, similar to the one that ripped through his being.
Oh,
Ironically
no.
enough, he was also made the patron saint of tanners and sawyers, which really sucks. I mean, imagine the way you died being your eternal legacy. Like, oh damn guys, you hear that Peter got nailed by a 37 Nissan Altima last week? Better make him
Oh,
the
what
patron
the?
saint of pedestrians. But hey, when you walk with Jesus, we're all jaywalkers.
It's true. The ants?
Oftentimes we find that nature is already well equipped with possible torture resources, and it doesn't even have to be something large or intimidating. Sometimes it's the small things that pack the biggest punch. Well,
What
turns
the-
out that quite a few groups of people around the world took advantage of nature's blessings. Like this little guy. This is a
Oh, that's a
Pseudomyrmex
scary thing.
triclarinus, but you can call it a little ouch.
It's a long
This
name.
agonizing arthropod is a venomous species of ant most commonly found in the northern areas of South America. These ants contain a cytotoxic venom, which if you remember my little toxins rhyme from my worst jobs in history video, you'd know that cytotoxins cause extreme cellular damage and painful swelling, making it a
Oh,
perfect
wow.
tool for devastating torture. For this section, we actually have a very modern use case. Back in 2014, a group of Bolivian villagers in the province of Ayopaya apprehended a pair of teenagers accused of stealing several motorcycles. Since the run-of-the-mill judicial penal system wasn't deemed effective enough, the villagers took matters into their own hands. The
Oh,
two
no.
upstanding criminals, aged 18 and 19, were strapped to a tree infested with venomous ants for 3 days.
For 3 days?
The young men writhed in pain for hours and hours on end, sustaining bites all over their bodies from head to toe. Chests were chomped, calves were crunched, nipples were nipped, and balls were bitten.
Nipples?
It was only after being found by one of their sisters that the young men were freed from their pincer prison. Well, also
Were
after
they
all their
alive?
relatives coughed up about $3,700 in cash as compensation for the bikes that were stolen. Gotta pay back your debt after all. Both men were rushed to intensive care, with one requiring dialysis to survive. But I bet they learned a valuable lesson. Don't take shit that doesn't belong to you. There have been
Yeah,
other claims of ant
definitely
torture
not.
throughout history, though, as a warning, these are more anecdotal than confirmed. It is said that the Apache people of the southern US and northern Mexico regions were capable of committing horrible acts of violence, but hey, when you're forced off your land, what are you gonna do? One such act was
true.
taking prisoners of war and burying them neck deep in the earth, allegedly near anthills containing red harvester ants.
Oh, no.
With a simple prod to the hill, thousands of ants pour out to defend their home, and being the nearest target, looks like you're the culprit. The red harvester
literally.
ant latches onto your skin with its strong, Chad-like mandibles and proceeds to repeatedly stab you with its stinger. Once stung,
Ouch.
pheromones are released, chemically signaling other ants to swarm you. Your lips, your mouth, your ears, and even your eyes are all susceptible to the stings. The intense pain from just a single sting has been described as feeling like being prodded by a searing hot needle, lasting up to
Oh,
8
no.
hours. So it goes without saying that thousands of
So
those
imagine getting like a
really
bunch
suck.
of those.
But don't worry, it's well documented that around 500 stings would be enough to kill a human. You're probably getting all itchy just thinking about them things crawling all over you, aren't you? Well, now you are.
That is gross. I don't think I would want that.
Our last stop on this journey takes place in the big old continent of Africa. Having dealt with colonization for centuries, the many countries of Africa are no stranger to pain. In fact, they're pretty good at dishing it out, especially to each other.
I bet.
Now, the concept of trial by ordeal is not exclusive to Africa. It's been seen across Europe, Persia, India, and Cambodia as well, but this segment focuses on Africa. Why? Because that's how I wrote this script and that's how I'm editing this video, so... Okay, so the idea behind the trial by ordeal is to determine the guilt or innocence of the accused through various means of torture. If you survive, you're innocent. If you die,
Oh, okay.
you're guilty. Not that it mattered anymore, but there were many different ordeals to be trialed through. These are going to be a bit rapid fire, so stick with me. And speaking of which, the first one is the trial by fire. The accused would either be forced to walk along a length of hot coals, hold scalding hot metal, or retrieve items from cauldrons of boiling hot oil. If the victim showed no visible signs of injury, they would be considered innocent. But that's just setting people up for failure. These examples of trial by fire have been historically documented across Togo, Nigeria, and Sudan. Next was the self-explanatory trial by poison. The accused would drink toxic concoctions consisting of various local poisons. In Liberia and Ghana, victims enduring the trial would be forced to ingest the bark of the sassywood tree.
Sassywood? What's that?
Sassywood juice. Maybe I don't want to drink that stuff. Nope. Was it you? The bark of the sassywood tree contains erythroflein, a powerful poison that can fuck up your heart. But as long as you regurgitate that slop out of your system, you're right as rain, and considered innocent. Similarly, some prisoners in Sierra Leone or Nigeria would drink a solution made from the calabar bean, which contains physostigmine, an acetylcholinesterase inhibitor. If you've never seen my chemical weapons video, this is just a fancy way of saying that it causes life-threatening seizures and a loss of your respiratory control, causing you to choke to death.
Just so fun.
One final trial would be the trial by water. Popular in pre-colonial Côte d'Ivoire, the accused would have their hands and feet bound and be tossed in the local river. Those who were able to break free of their bindings and swim to the surface were absolved of their crimes, while those who sank like stones were doomed to figuratively and literally drown in their guilt. Talk about washing away your sins. Well, that's all I got for this one. If you had fun learning about
really bad. Which one was the worst one, guys?
But also, click that subscribe button. Now, go
comment
watch this
down
video.
below which one
I'll
was
see you
the
over there.
literal worst one, because I feel like they were all pretty painful, but tell me which one was the worst.